Arman Tsarukyan's career has taken some wild turns since his failed title shot against Islam Makhachev, and his choices since then have left fans scratching their heads. Once seen as one of the UFC's brightest rising stars, he's now drifting into strange territory, making decisions that appear more confusing than calculated. Recently, Tsarukyan agreed to a grappling match with Mateusz Gamrot, the very same opponent he turned down when the UFC offered him a rematch inside the octagon. That's not speculation either. Arman admitted himself that the UFC presented the Gamrot fight, but he declined, saying he wanted someone ranked higher. What makes it even more puzzling is that Gamrot already owns a win over Tsarukyan. For a fighter trying to rebuild momentum and prove himself after stumbling on the biggest stage, refusing that fight seemed like a misstep. In a recent interview, Gamrot explained why he rejected the grappling match Arman proposed, saying that any rematch between them should happen in the UFC, not on a side stage. His logic was simple: their rivalry belongs in the cage. Right now, Gamrot sits at number 8 in the lightweight rankings, while Arman still clings to the number 2 spot. Yet instead of solidifying his claim by running back the fight with Gamrot, Tsarukyan has been chasing names like Dan Hooker and Paddy Pimblett, while the UFC appears set on pushing him toward Hooker this November at UFC Qatar. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira has been answering questions about his future, following a brutal knockout loss to Ilia Topuria that had fans speculating about retirement. It was the first time in his career he had been completely shut off, and many assumed it was the beginning of the end. But Oliveira has no intention of walking away yet. Sitting down with Ariel Helwani, he made it clear that retirement isn't on his mind. He still wants the biggest fights possible at lightweight. A rematch with Max Holloway was briefly considered, and the hype was real, but Max's hand injury derailed that plan. Instead, Oliveira will face Rafael Fiziev on October 11th. Stylistically, that matchup is dangerous. Fiziev is one of the most lethal strikers in the division, a pressure fighter with power and speed, while Oliveira thrives on aggression, forward pressure, and elite grappling. The concern is that Oliveira is stepping back into the cage only months after being flatlined by Topuria, and now he's facing another man who can shut anyone's lights out. Fans are understandably worried about whether his chin can hold up after such a devastating knockout. Oliveira, though, insists he's in a good place, that he's still motivated and capable of performing at the highest level. Ilia Topuria, fresh off his own rise to stardom, has been making headlines beyond MMA. After bizarrely calling out Terence Crawford, the undefeated lightweight champion was written off by most fans who saw it as nothing more than bravado. Crawford himself joked that Topuria must have been drunk when he made the challenge. Then footage surfaced of Topuria sparring with former boxing world champion Sergio Martinez. While the sparring was light, not a true test of boxing ability, it was enough for some fans to wonder if Topuria was serious about testing himself in another sport. In reality, the footage was more about optics than substance. The bigger question is who Topuria will face in his first title defense, which Spanish outlets suggest will come in early 2026. Over in the featherweight division, Dan Hooker has stirred up controversy with his blunt opinions. Speaking to Sky Sport, Hooker dismissed fighters like Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy as boring, and insisted nobody wants to see them in title fights. In his eyes, the real action lies in the upcoming Gene Silva versus Diego Lopes fight, which he believes should determine the next challenger for Alexander Volkanovski's belt. Hooker argued that fans want entertainment, and Silva brings the kind of excitement that sells tickets. This clashes with Volkanovski's own philosophy. Volk has always maintained he wants the most deserving challengers, regardless of popularity. He's been chasing a fight with Evloev because he considers him the rightful contender. Hooker, however, insists that his teammate deserves the biggest fight possible, and for him, that means the Silva-Lopes winner. The dynamic in the UFC right now is fascinating. Arman Tsarukyan, once touted as the heir apparent, is losing goodwill with fans and fellow fighters by making questionable choices. Charles Oliveira, a beloved veteran, is fighting to prove he still belongs after a crushing defeat. Ilia Topuria, the new star, is balancing hype with reality as fans wait for his first title defense. And Dan Hooker, never shy with his words, is pushing hard to shape the featherweight title picture in favor of excitement over meritocracy. The stories are all connected by the same thread: uncertainty. Tsarukyan is uncertain about his path. Oliveira is uncertain about his durability. Topuria is uncertain about his future opponents. And Hooker is uncertain about how much influence his words will carry. Yet that uncertainty is exactly what keeps MMA fans hooked. The rivalries, the trash talk, the bizarre callouts, the career crossroads. It all combines to create the unpredictable theater that makes the UFC so addictive. As the year winds down, UFC Qatar looms with the potential Tsarukyan versus Hooker clash. Oliveira prepares for another war against Fiziev. Topuria flirts with boxing stunts while holding the belt, and Hooker campaigns for Silva or Lopes to leapfrog the rankings. Every move adds fuel to the fire. Every choice could reshape divisions, and every fight holds the power to make or break legacies. The only guarantee? The chaos is just beginning.